Okay, it is exactly 8:31 and it is Wednesday, June the 16th, 2021. And welcome to, as I said before, come fast, week 6. This is it. There is no week 7. And this is the final lecture. Good evening, William. And so it's important for each of you to understand that this is it. All assignments are going to be due by Friday, 2 days from now, 11:59 p.m. Central Standard. So I'm going to go ahead and share in the details, even though it shouldn't be a problem for week 6 for you guys. So let's go ahead and share my screen. Okay, it should be coming on. There it comes. Okay. All right, so let's move this over here. Let's go to student preview. Start student preview. And so now we're going to take a look at the emails. And you can see all the emails that I've sent out. The most recent one you have is the PowerPoint for this week. I sent that out on Sunday. So you should have that now. Then let's go look at the assignments. Week 6. So we got the discussion post, written assignment, and the final exam. Your final exam is comprehensive. If you've done the assignments for weeks 1 through 5, you should have no problem being ready for the final exam. And then actually you've been doing the quizzes in each of the weeks as well. Okay, so let's look at the discussion on methadone clinics. So for your you're gonna, for your first post, conduct research about the pros and cons of methadone clinics. And for your first post, argue one side whether methadone clinics are appropriate option for overcoming opioid addiction. Be sure to discuss the community support or disfavor regarding methadone clinics and law enforcement concerns, and support your comments with detailed information examples. And that was due last night. And then your reply post, of course, is due Friday, um, and reply to a different student's post. Okay. So the assignment itself, do the assessment here. Here it comes. So remember, once again, the scenario with Dave. Make sure that you comment about that and have that in your paper. Make sure that it's a Word document, okay? Because you will not have a chance to resubmit it because assignments are due this Friday. So you're going to make sure that you follow the rubric once again. Citations throughout the paper, references at the end. So you're going to summarize the different types of treatment programs that's available for addiction treatment. And then what would you recommend for Dave? And elaborate on it, though. Just give me a sentence. Locate a current example for each strategy below. and an explanation on how the strategy will treat addiction and reduce recidivism. Either one of these, the diversion strategy, the treatment strategy, or rehabilitation strategy. You should know the answers to what those mean by the end of the lecture, and also you should know it from your chapter and the PowerPoints as well. Okay. Determine whether Dave would benefit from each of the examples. Make sure how would he benefit from diversion, treatment strategy, or rehabilitation strategy. Identify any additional sources that he might need regarding mental health and addiction. It says provide at least one credible source. You know what I usually will tell you? Give me sources throughout the body of the paper, because remember, the sources that you cite support the statements in the paper. I don't like papers with just one credible source. I like them to have sources to support your statements, because you got that information from somewhere. Remember, we talked in week 1 about important to cite your sources and then have your reference page, not just your reference page and not just your citations. Identify any additional issues, again, finally, that they might need regarding mental health and addiction. The paper needs to be at least 2 pages double space. Very, very, very important. Many of you have lost points because your paper wasn't at least the minimum of requirement, and you end up getting fewer points for that. Okay, and then you know when that assignment is due. I'll show you again on the rubric in just a few minutes. And then the final exam, which I will not click on, because if I click on it, it's going to open it up. So I'm not going to do that. And you'll be able to deal with that. Remember, it is a closed book exam. And then your live classroom lecture. So notice that everything is due. The reply posts and your written assignments on the 18th. Okay, very important. All right. So now let's go back to take a look at the rubric for the written assignment. Here, let's see. Oh, here it is up here. I'm all the way down there. Drug-related treatment, rehabilitation activities. Click on that. Opens it up. And here is the rubric. So you can see that for treatment programs, for a total of 13% of the grade, notice what it requires. I want you to be in mastery, not proficiency, not competence, and not emerging. The way you end up in emerging is if you don't have enough information concerning the addiction treatment or the different types of treatments that I told you about. Dealing with diversion strategy, same thing. Supply sources to support your statements. Okay, treatment strategy, the rehabilitation strategy, diversion strategy. So each of those, very important. And then the benefits to Dave. You got to make sure you cover that as well, because you will lose points for that, because when I grade them, I go through and I look for that. And then your credible sources. Notice if you don't have any credible sources, you're going to end up with this. If you have a few credible sources, you might end up with this. But sources throughout the paper will get you over here. And then 2 to 3 pages. Notice if you don't have, if your paper is 1 3/4, 1 1/2, you're going to end up over here. Look at the difference in 100% of the points to half of the points, just a little over half of them. Okay, so you don't want that to happen. All right, and as I explained to a student, the comments about assignments are found in the grade book rubric, not the rubric that I just pulled up. It's the same one, but it's in your grade book, and it'll demonstrate how you did. And the way that the system is set up, it doesn't allow me to deduct the points like it used to in the old system. Because Ultra just makes you use the maximum points, and then you have to override the grade to reduce the points. And that's what I do. Okay. Sometimes it goes to 99.98, and that should be 100. So I override it and make it 100. So anyway, that's that assignment. Remember, a cover page. Remember, it's double space, APA formatted. Any questions about the written assignment? Okay, so we're all set with that. All right, so you know when it's due and everything. All right, let's get into the announcement. Well, before we do that, I want to show you the calendar for the last time. Then we get into the announcement. Here's the month view. This is where we are today. Your initial post was due yesterday. And the course ends in 2 days with your assignments, discussions, and the exam. Very important for you to be aware of everything that I said. If you submit it after 11:59 p.m., it'll be on the 19th, no points, 0. If you're 1 second late, I can't do it. They're real strict about that in the school, so I can't do it. I can do that in other weeks, but I cannot do it in the course ends, because the course is over. You got to think of it from the perspective that you get penalized, just like if your taxes were due the 15th of April and you filed them and the postmark is the 16th. Even if you filed on the 15th, it's still going to be late. And that's the same thing here. All right, so that's the final look at the calendar. Let's look at announcements. Week 6. So drug related criminal activity, treatment and rehabilitation strategies. So you got chapter 10 of the textbook along with the PowerPoints, and treatment challenges related to opioid addiction and drug treatment and rehabilitation programs. We're going to take a look at that a little bit. And then I already mentioned the discussion post, the exam, and reminding you again that everything's due by the 18th. It's all over the place. Even in caps, a reminder that the quarter officially ends at 11:59, June 18th, 2021. Take time to complete the evaluation as well. You know my motto, adversity is a springboard to success, because I shared that with you at the beginning of the term. Still there. All right. So that's the announcements. So now let's get to the discussion of the topics. So you got two areas that we're going to be dealing with. So you should be aware that, as you already discovered from last week's video and from the lectures that we've been having, that opioid is serious and that it changes the lives of people, that it alters their lives permanently, and that it can um, permanently disable a person or kill that person. And so it affects their relationships with their families, with their friends. It affects their educational opportunities. It affects them with their jobs. And so there's a lot of psychological and physical challenges, as you know from looking at that video, Chasing the Dragon last week. And what happens is you start out innocently with painkillers, and then you graduate to heroin and opioids, and the body requires that you continue increasing the amount of the drug, and as a result, it creates problems for you. As it says, as people discontinue use of drug, the physical challenges begin to develop, including like restlessness, muscle and bone pain, insomnia, diarrhea, vomiting, and cold flashes and sweating. So if you start and you decide you want to try to uh, get free of that, it is definite that you will go through some or all of those different challenges that I just mentioned a few minutes ago. And it's not easy, because what people tend to do is that they either do one of two things. They will either go back and to get that opioid, or either they will try to kick it with methadone, and primarily methadone. And what it does is given to lessen the symptoms that I talked about that you go through from withdrawal. But it's also addictive, methadone itself. That's one of the problems that I have with methadone. And it is, people have to, uh, you don't get a supply to keep yourself. You have to make a daily visit to the clinic. And then there's um, a very serious problem that you develop there. So in other words, you're weaned off of opioids, but then you graduate to another drug called methadone, and it's addictive, and you have to have it. Now, that's the crutch that I refer to oftentimes that people should be, because what happens, unfortunately, is people get comfortable with the methadone and they don't ever go through the stage where they detox, where they become physically free. But then remember, once again, you have to go through those different challenges that I said also. Some people should or don't mind methadone because it's a drug that allows them to function. But just remember what happens. If you miss a time, you can go back into taking the drug. Also important for you to be aware, even if you're not taking the opioid, when you take the methadone, you can still flunk a drug test uh, for employment, and it doesn't eliminate the possibility of using opioids. It just kind of, I call it a stay of execution, and that's one of my arguments. That's against it. Now, it postpones the ability for you to work hard to kick this substance. So it says when taking methadone, a person may not be abusing opioids, but their commitment to recovery is not really that great. Let me see what you said. I think I know what you said. Replacing an opioid with another opioid is still addictive. Well, it's not on schedule. The reason why it's not a schedule is because it's medicinal. That's why. It's intended to um, be a medicine. So it is it's not supposed to do bad things to your body. What it do is it's like an anesthetic, and it makes you oblivious to the changes that you're going through, and it doesn't remove the taste for opioids, but what it does is it decreases it, and that's the issue. So it's not a scheduled drugs. Scheduled drugs are drugs that are dangerous to a person. Some people say methadone is dangerous. Well, yes and no. It's dangerous because it delays you going through the feeling of those symptoms of kicking the habit. But it's pretty difficult. It's just like I tell people, putting weight on is pretty easy, but trying to get it off, it is not easy at all. So does that kind of answer your question? Okay. Think of it as it is. I don't know people who are prescribed any of those drugs on that the schedule. However, there are drugs on there, but they're used for other things. But then what they do is they mix it with heroin to make it and makes it worse. So methadone is a medication, so to speak. So it says when taking methadone, a person may not be abusing opioids, but their commitment to actions necessary for recovery is more than half-hearted, and that's what I just said earlier. Um, it need intensive counseling. You need a lot of help. I mean, and you need a strong sponsor and a strong support network. But notice what it says in the very last sentence about this. It says, some studies indicate that over 70% of people relapse after stopping the use of methadone. That's the point that I was bringing out about methadone. It's a delayed action. Okay. You can learn a lot more about opioid addiction by looking at Chasing Heroin. You saw Chasing the Dragon last week, and I'm not going to put that on. That's a 2-hour video. You can take time to look at that. Just be aware from what you learned already with the opioid issue, how devastating that is. The same applies for this. And I do invite you to take the time to look at this, even if you look at it on your own time. But what that video does, and I've seen it before, Chasing Heroin, is it indicates the dangers similar to the ones that you saw in Chasing the Dragon. Okay, and you go through the same pattern usually with heroin. You increase the dose, and then you can overdose, and you can die from that as well. All right, so that's some of the challenges, the different things that you have to deal with. So what's the best policy? Don't do it. Don't do it. So in the final section that I'm going to talk about here, it talks about the 12-step program at the end, but it talks about the things that you have to go through, the options that are needed, either a very strong inpatient program, But the problem is that, as you saw in the video from last week, that individuals will go into these programs and they will appear to be okay. They could even appear to be clean for so many months. Excuse me. And then you saw what happened to that one lady with her daughter who went to the store to get some cigarettes and went to her room. And while the mom was cooking dinner, uh, the, the child was in the midst of overdosing and died. So the problem is real serious, and it just takes just a little bit, good people, to get you started down that road. But look at what it says. It says long-term patient programs involve 6 to 12 months. 6 to 12 months. Remember that young girl? I think she had a 6 month. Look at what happened. And what they do is try to change the behavior that you have, point you in a new direction. Remember, getting you from 12 to 6. However, what unfortunately happens is that people slip and go past 6 to 7 to 8 to 9 to 10, 11, and guess where the next stop is? Back to 12. So you go in a complete circle and you go back to where you started. And so it is the other alternative is 30 days. Not very helpful with most people. And it, as it says, it might help in the preparation for the individual to return to the community, but it is not long lasting once that person is released from those 30 days. Outpatient counseling focuses on the reduction or stopping substance use. And what it does is it attempts to put your mind on something else to get you not to think about the drugs. It might even change it should change some of the people that you hung around with before that got you in that position in the first place. It might even change the music that you listen to, because people should know that there's music that triggers drug use as well. And so you try to go in a totally different direction in life. And there are options where people find themselves in group counseling. But how often is it that what happens within that group is that individuals find themselves losing somebody along the way because of the fact that you get so weak. See, you got to remember what happens. Your willpower to defeat this thing goes away or diminishes. And you'll say, well, you know, just a little bit, you know. And what unfortunately happens to people is that that little bit of break that you have is just enough to even set you back to where you were when you started. So you fall back all the way. It's like climbing a greased pole. You get so far up, and then all of a sudden you go, whoo, slide right back down. Well, that's the same type of thing that happens in these situations with a lot of these people who are in group counseling. So there are a number of programs that are out here, like the one that I'm going to talk about concluding, that Alcoholics Anonymous has, and other 12-step programs where you have some support from individuals to try to strengthen your willpower to end drug use. The statistical numbers do not support ending drug use in a positive way. Unfortunately, drug use ends oftentimes with overdoses. And that's how people stop using it. Of course, they're gone. But during the period of time that an individual is trying to live, again, remember, the willpower is the key. How strong is their will or desire? You know, people who find themselves in that situation will turn into liars. Why are they doing that? Because they want to take the heat off of what they're doing. But the old saying, what's done in the dark will come to the light, applies definitely to individuals who are, as I say, hooked on this, and they become puppets. And the puppeteer is the drug that pulls whatever strings that that individual has in their lives and causes them to do things, as I already have said over and over in this course from day one, that that's why it's called drugs and crime, is because people commit crimes to support their drug habits. And so they have to have some way to get the drugs themselves. So it says peer supports are a critical component of substance use disorder treatment center. Yes, yes, yes. The key thing is you gotta, as they talk about diversionary technique, where you get the person to go in another direction. Some people believe that one of the diversionary techniques that's good is methadone. I don't. I already said it before, and I explained why earlier in the last section that we talked about, that it's a stay of execution. It's a delay, and that eventually you find yourself right back. So where are we? Well, again, for opioid addiction, there's medicated assisted treatment such as methadone, bupropion, or extended injectable naloxone. You know about that. That arrests the drug in the body. But unfortunately, excuse me, the numbers are not so good with the parties that are saved, utilizing even naltrexone or either Narcan, which is a brand of it. And so, again, the final statement, the use of the prescribed medications, and that was why I made the point earlier, Bill, about the fact that methadone is a medication that used to ease the symptoms of withdrawal sickness and supposedly quickens the transition to recovery. Well, once again, I disagree with that statement, because the fact that most people end up with methadone on for the rest of their lives, and it takes time. Again, one slip can send you back to square one, or one slip can put you in a position where you will do something that ends your life, and so you're stuck with it. And so, in the attempt to try to help people, utilizing what AA does, called the 12-step program, can also be used in recovery programs for opioid and heroin addiction. And so, going over these points, and I stress them very seriously. And it's not about your belief, it's about the reality. There's something is out there that is taking over you, and you can't control it. You can't stop doing it. So let's go from 1 to 12. It says, admit that you're powerless over alcohol. Let's just put drugs in there, or drugs or alcohol, and that your life has become unmanageable. I think we all agree that that's what happens to people who reach that stage. Pretty much, um, they've hit rock bottom, but they have to admit that. Oh no, I'm okay. I can function. I can do what I need to do. Occasionally, I hit uh, my drugs. That's not acceptable, because the fact that that's still not accepting the fact that you have a problem. If you use any amounts of it, you have a problem. And in order to get help, you have to admit, number one, that you have a problem. That's the first thing. I'm talking about really, as we say, show enough down deep, admit that you have a problem. You can tell me that you have a problem, but you haven't admitted yourself. It doesn't matter what you tell me. It's about what you have accepted in terms of your life. As my grandma said to me one time, every tub got to stand on its own bottom. What that meant very seriously is that your the tubs have roughly 4 legs, and this was back in the days when tubs had legs. Now you don't see them; they're laying flat. But if each tub, in order to stand firmly, had 4 legs. If it had 3 legs, it wobbled. 2 legs, it leaned. 1 leg, it leaned and wobbled. But the point I'm saying is that so you're judged on your own, your name. 2, come to believe that a power greater than us can restore us to sanity. What you cannot see sometimes is this thing called, and there are people use this term, um, positive thinking. Well, positive thinking may be a start, but it requires more than positive thinking. It requires positive action. Positive action. And positive action is not manifested when you're temporarily or periodically taking a hit. So you have to admit you have a problem, and then recognize that this is something that even humans, I don't care how much knowledge we have, we cannot change. There's the serenity prayer. Have you guys ever heard of the serenity prayer? Yeah. And the serenity prayer, William, check it out. The serenity prayer, and it is a powerful prayer, and I'm going to give it to you in just a minute. But you can look it up. Give me a minute. Okay, here we go. And here's what it says. It says, God grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things that I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. And so, uh, so God is the power that's in here in the serenity prayer. But notice what it says: I cannot change it, but give me the courage to change the things that I can change. In other words, do the things that you need to do, like stay away from certain parties, find yourselves in bad situations, putting yourself permanently in those situations, and then wisdom to know the difference between the two. And that's it. It's very simply. A lot of people, you get them on keychains or posters, um, and so, but believe that a power is greater than you. Counselors use that all the time in counseling individuals. the Serenity Prayer, and we use it as pastors and most ministers. But it's biblical, but it is reality in action. The third point: made a decision. Notice it didn't say made. It says made. I mean, it say make. Made a decision to turn your will over to the care of God as we understood Him. Now, that may be a barrier to some people because they don't believe in God, and that's a problem that people have. But you can put in whatever you want to put in there. If you're Muslim, you can put Allah in there, whatever else you want to. Here's the point. I asked a person once this question, and I said, why don't you believe in God? And you know what the person told me? They said, I don't believe in anything I cannot see. So I said, okay, here's my example. And this is something you might want to remember for the rest of your life. I said, is there oxygen in this room that we're in? And he said, of course there's oxygen in the room we're in. I said, how do you know? Well, I'm breathing. I said, okay, but do you see it? Do you taste it? Do you touch it? Or you just know it's there? He said, you got a good point. So I said, God is like oxygen to me. Okay, now that's what I use. Some people use Jehovah. Some people use, yep, faith and trust. That's it. That is it. And people say those are biblical concepts. They are, but they're applicable in the situation when you find yourself there. Thank you, Jennifer, for that. But yes, absolutely, absolutely true. Now, I know people who are, quote, God-fearing, but they're not actually applying it to their everyday lives. Um, you know, I don't operate like that. I'm not perfect, but anyway, this is not a discussion on religion. This is a discussion on techniques that are utilized to help people to overcome the addiction that they have. It's not easy. It's hard. It's hard. Like I can counsel people about it, but I've never been an addict. I've never been. A lot of people who are counselors are able to become that. Like the one I told you about in the book. This book right here, from Dope to Hope. Tim Ryan, A Man in Recovery. And the title of his book, In Recovery, means what it says. And he elaborates in details about it. But make a decision to turn the care over to God as you understood Him, or your relationship. Made a searching and fearless moral inventory of ourselves. There's a passage in the Bible. It's in 1 Corinthians. It says, let a man examine himself. And remember I said earlier about every tub got to stand on its own bottom. You have to examine yourself. Take an inventory of yourself. You don't compare what you did, even though you can listen to people who can give you ideas. But everybody's different. But the key thing is take the things out that will help you. Number 5, admit it to God, to ourselves, and to another human being, the nature of our wrongs. We call that repentance. Turning away, going in a new direction, and reaching the stage where you need to be able to do this. You know, a person said, oh yeah, a religious person can do this real well. I beg to differ. Not religious. I'm not religious either at all. I'm relational. I deal with it as relation. I believe by faith and trust there is a God, and I believe that, he can control my destiny and my future. But just like you have, as parents, you have kids, you can all day long tell them. If they don't take that advice and apply it, it's no good. It's like the old saying, you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make them drink. Number 6, we're entirely ready to have God remove. So you're ready to say, take this away from me. Take this taste away from me. Take this desire away from me. Move me away from that. Some form of meditation is very helpful. It's the same kind of thing that a lot of people should recognize, and it's applicable to help people. Some people say chanting. The Buddhists who have it. The point of the matter is that there is a character, there is a force that you cannot see. How many seen Star Wars? The famous line in Star Wars is, "Let the force be with you." Well, and then remember, Luke was told to close his eyes. What he was really being told is trust in something that he cannot see, and it will take him and help him uh, to get accomplish what he desired. Well, that's the same thing here. Believe in yourself. Absolutely. You know, you've seen The Wizard of Oz, or The Wiz, the black version of Wizard of Oz. But here's the key thing in that movie is that Dorothy in the entire movie was trying to go someplace to get help from the wizard. And when she finally got there, the wizard said, "I'm not so great. You had it in you all the time." And, you know, believe in yourself. Matter of fact, there's a song in the movie. I know in The Wiz there is. I'm trying to remember in The Wizard of Oz. Believing in yourself. Because I remember the lion was talking about getting some courage and in The Wiz. And he said, believe in yourself right from the start. That was a phrase that was in there. The point of the matter is yes, believe you can do it. I can do it. I can do it. I can do it. Years ago, Sammy Davis Jr., the late Sammy Davis Jr., wrote a book, Yes, I Can. And I tell students that I teach, yes, you can. Yes, you can. Don't say you can't, because can't is 2 words. Can't is can and not. Take the not off and just use the can. The point of the matter is again, you're ready to have these defects removed of character. Humbly ask to remove shortcomings. Move self out of the way. That's what we tell people. Get 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 your butt out of the way. I would, but get that butt out of the way. You know, do it. Nike said it in 3 words, just do it. And so you have to make up your mind in this. Remember what we're talking about here. We're talking about things that ultimately will help people, not the methadone, not those drugs, but we're talking about steps and things that can help individuals. Make a list of all the people you've harmed and become willing to make amends to them all. Turn a new leaf. Now, don't expect them to believe you, because you've been known or developed the reputation as a liar, because the substance has taken over your words and your actions and your deeds. So now be not surprised if it's not easily done. It takes time, a lot of hard work. Um, but there's a lot of people you've harmed, probably starting right with your family, starting right there. But who's the first person you really harmed? Anybody know? Thank you, Jennifer. Yourself. As I try to tell people, you cannot get apple juice from an orange, and you cannot get orange juice from an apple. What is inside that individual will come out in terms of their actions, their words, and their deeds. So, yep, that's it. That's it. You hurt yourself first. And and people say the man in the mirror. Well, that's two-dimensional. Three-dimensional is you. Because did you not know you've never seen yourself? Because of the fact that mirrors don't show you, and in fact mirrors turn it around, and pictures are an image of what you are. In movies or videos, you might see yourself then, and those kinds of things. But the point of the matter is this, is that you have to fix that up with the people that you've hurt. Okay. Make direct amends to those people whenever possible, however possible, except when to do so would injure them or others. So you want to bring something good. Number 10, continue to take inventory. And when you were wrong, promptly admit it. Remember, as I try to tell people all the time, and I told people when I was a criminal lawyer, I said, admit the fact that you did something you know got you in trouble. And then let's move on from there. Because denying it or blaming it on somebody else or something else is not good. Well, I wouldn't have done this except the drugs. Most addicts that I know did not become addicts because somebody tied them down and forced the drug in their body. Most don't. It comes about because you decided that's what you would do for either peer satisfaction, social satisfaction, or self-satisfaction. The point of the matter is that you are the one who need to do it. And once again, personal inventory is examining yourself. The last two, sort through prayer and meditation. I talked about that earlier. To improve your conscious contact with God or whatever force or power that can help you as you understood. Praying for the knowledge of their will for you and the power to carry that out. Move self. Get the butt out the way. Remember, I said that a few minutes ago. As I try to tell people, I said, everybody's got a nose. Most people not a nose I know of. I don't know too many people that don't have a nose. But something else a lot of people have. And that's excuses. Excuses or justification for why they do something. And then the final step is having a spiritual awakening. In other words, go in a new direction in life. Change the way that you were going. Don't even, you're down there at 6, don't even think about 9. Don't think about 3. Don't think about 12, of course, because that's where you started. Get a new life for yourself. And it's hard, very difficult, but it's worth it. It's worth it. Unfortunately, the number of people who end up having a spiritual awakening that lasts for the rest of their life is very, very small. But that's because they don't allow the steps that we talked about earlier to become real in their lives. As a result of the steps, you try to carry this message to alcoholics, I'll say to addicts, and to practice them in your affairs, in everything that you do. And so these are the things that, people deal with in terms of actually helping individuals. Once again, I repeat for the last time, these drugs that you take, they mask the symptoms. Um, what vaccines do and antibiotics is that they stop the virus or drug or whatever the illness is. Yep. And what she just said a minute ago, minimize things. But what those things that I was talking about do is they don't minimize. What they do is they begin to work on the negative forces, such as I explained to people. I don't care what they say. And in this school, we talk about it. I'm going to be straight up. And you got an email about this already from Rasmussen University. Get your shots. And it's not political, it's health. And so the same thing here. When you're dealing with these drug situations, you've you can't reinvent the wheel. And you can't shortcut it. And you just got to do it the old-fashioned way. And it's got to be something that's very, very, very much that you are committed to. And that's what I wanted to say in terms of dealing with that. Perhaps one of the issues that Brother Dave that we met during week 1 needs to be introduced to these steps to help him. It's no secret that I'm a fan of rehabilitation. I'm not in favor of some of these temporary things like methadone and all those other things, because you know what? Then you become a chameleon. Does everybody know what a chameleon will do? Yeah, just like a transformer. I mean, the point of the matter is that uh, you dress for the occasion, or you fit into it. If the area is green, you turn green. If the area is blue, you turn blue. Folks are getting high. There we go. Okay. Folks are not getting high. You might, if you're not in the right state of mind, you'll be unpleasant to them, but that's what you really need. That's not what you really need, but that's what you believe you need because you haven't gone through these steps. Admit there's a problem. So let's see what we come up with here in terms of you getting your assignment done about helping Dave out at the end. Any questions about anything that I talked about tonight? Incidentally, this is not philosophy. I didn't preach a sermon. Anything that you can turn into reality to benefit yourself that's positive and does not harm anyone or violate the law is something that you should consider. The results. The results. Okay, guys. That's it. That's the end of our um, what we've covered for the last 5.5 weeks. I hope that oh, by the way, I'll give you a phrase. Anybody have any ideas? Nope. Nah, I'm going to give you something better than that. Here it is. Nope, you're still in the same vein. How about I just give it to you? What I want you to do, what I want us to, as individuals, to be able to do for people is help individuals, rehabilitate them, utilizing drug treatment. Drug treatment. The techniques vary on individual, but there's some essential things like the ones I just covered a few minutes ago. So give me drug treatment and you'll get your points for the final time for this week. Well, as I said, I hope that you have now added this course to your repertoire as you move closer to becoming a criminal justice professional, and that you be and the way that I teach this course is I teach it, it's no secret, is that I begin to operate in the minds of my individuals who are heading in criminal justice, whether it's law enforcement, probation, parole, or what have you, to recognize the fact that it's an illness that we're treating. You're a health professional, basically, as a individual. Oh, okay. So I'll see you in criminal law. That'll be in term 2. So I'll see you there. Great, great. Looking forward to that too as well. Term 1, I'm teaching contemporary issues in criminal justice. Most of you guys wouldn't be in that because that's when you're getting ready to graduate with your associate's degree. And it's a capstone course. And I love doing that course. There is no textbook in that course at all. There's no PowerPoints. We just chat and I give you ideas about things to help you prepare as a professional going out into the field. But this course yeah, it is very exciting. I love teaching it. I used to teach it when it was an 11-week course, but I like it even better that they've turned it into a 5.5 course. There are assignments that you have to do, but it's important. But remember what we're doing here. For each of these classes, I'm giving you a tool to put in your toolbox, knowing that in criminal justice, whatever direction that you go into, you'll be able to remember. Like you remember the one thing in this course is that as you are law enforcement, for example, if I'm using that, and you come across somebody and they have mental problems, you're going to learn how to deal with those individuals other than to shoot them. You might have to tase, but you have to be careful about even doing that. The point of the matter is you have to recognize that those individuals are sick, and then you have individuals who are not only mentally unstable, but they're mentally unstable because of the drug addiction habit. And so you have to be the better of the parties. And so our goal in criminal justice is to, as we explained, you become a little psychologist, a little medical person. Sure, you enforce the law, but you have to look at it and see what's going on with that individual. Excuse me. Again, my phrase, if you were to analyze almost every crime that takes place, at least a large portion of it, you will find that drugs is somewhere in the vicinity. You will inevitably find that out. So, well, I'm done. I again hope to see you in future courses. Jennifer already told me I'll see her in criminal law. I'm glad the fact that she's not taking criminal law this time because I'm teaching that as well. I finished my lecture in that yesterday. That meant that you would be repeating the course, but no, it's a good course. I know, trust me, I know about you. I've had you before as a student. I come to know my students very well. I come to know students who have struggles. I am one who is willing to work with students. Before I let you go, I got to tell you, I have a former student who I had in, excuse me, in criminal justice. He was in my earlier classes. This is back when some of them were 11 weeks. And he went on academic probation. And he was ready to get put out. And he didn't do well in my classes. Well, he and I connected, and I started working with him and not doing his work, but explaining to him almost like a tutor and help that young man. Long story short is that he ended up getting on the dean's list, the honor roll first, and then dean's list. And I did something that I have never done, but it worked out well. My wife and I were celebrating our 25th wedding anniversary in July of 2019, and we'll be doing 27 this year, the 28th of July. But here's what happened is that we went to Florida, the two of us. Well, the graduation was going to take place the 27th. So we got there the 26th, and I collaborated with his dean to let her know, academic dean, that I was going to surprise him and show up at his graduation. And I did. He had never met me before, like you guys have never met me face to face. And I showed up there, and there were several other students who later found out I was there. They didn't announce that I was there, which they originally wanted to do, but they had a format they had to follow. And so anyway, I drove all the way from Orlando to Tampa, not to Tampa, but to Newport Richey. That's where the graduation was that year, down there. And I was there, and they took me to see him just before he started to march. And I walked in, and I had my robe and cap and gown on, and he looked at me. And he knew who I was because he had seen pictures of me. In fact, he's a friend of mine on Facebook. And he went further than that. He got involved in the ministry of my church down, and he still lives in Tampa. But that's, I have relationships with students like that. I have a student that is up here, and he has a twin brother down in Orlando. And I had him. He didn't do well, but his other brother did, and I've written letters and helped. So what it is I help my students. I'm here to be of support to my students. I'm not just somebody who teaches a class and then I'm done with you. No, I don't do that. And even if you don't do well, if you know, reach out to me. That's why I'm the one who says you can text me, call me, email me any hour of the day except the 25th hour of the day. And you can be rest assured that if you do, particularly text me, I'm going to call you. I'm going to call you. Every student I know knows that's Professor Wright. So, all right, guys, it's 9:40. I'm going to let you go. The final thing I do want to let you know is that your final grades will be submitted by 11:59 p.m. Central Standard Time on Monday. So that means that I will be grading your week 5 and week 6. I've done through week 4, and you've gotten your grades for that already. But any questions you have, again, you know what to do. So I'm going to say good night. Enjoy your break that you have. And we start back the 6th of July. And you know, so I'll see some of you who will be taking well, that won't be until term 2 for introduction to criminal law, but if some of you have not taken introduction to corrections, which is a required course, or pretty much most students do, I see you there as well. So stay safe, and take care. Have a good week. All right. You're welcome. Thank you. Thank you, each of you. Good night.